I mean, Katrina, people will be watching in the UK thinking that they might have days, even weeks of this before we get a final result. And although we haven't quite got there, how has it happened so quickly?
Well, we were looking at polls all along that were showing almost a dead heat or a statistical dead heat, but every single time we talked about them, and we've been talking about them for a long time, we would have always said there's a margin of error, folks, here of 2, 3 or 4%. And what that means is actually the difference between the candidates could be anything up to 8%. So 2 up is 2 down and so on. And that's what we've seen come true here. So you can't say the polls are wrong because the margin of error is there. But what we are seeing, and to give him his due, Donald Trump is having and has had an incredible night. The team around him, they've been criticised in past elections for not running professional campaigns, for not contacting voters, for not targeting their message enough. He targeted the message around a simple line about the economy. Were you better off with me or with them? Something that everyone could speak to. And it's resulted in just this massive flip around of states, huge running up of the vote for him.
We also have Deanna Bass-Williams, who's just joined us as well, Republican political strategist. What do you think it was, Deanna, that led to this massive victory Katrina's just describing?
I think that many people in this pundit world did not really realize that Americans are hurting. And gas prices, grocery prices, these things actually mattered. And so, you know, Rebecca and I have been here for almost 8 hours, and when we started,
only 8 hours.
We can beat that.
When we started this, we thought that it would be, you know, at least Friday or Saturday before we knew the results. But I think that we're closer to knowing now, because really, it really is the economy. It is the border. These very basic things that have plagued Americans for the last 4 years, and Donald Trump could ask the question, are you better off now than you were before? And unfortunately for Harris, she was not able to answer that effectively enough for most Americans.
Rebecca, why do you think she wasn't able to do that?
You know, I don't know if it's a shorter timeline of the campaign with getting in the race in July and not necessarily having the ability to introduce herself to voters while also communicating a message at the same time. It's like riding a bike while building it in 100 days versus a Donald Trump who is a known quantity, who had 2.5 years, 4 years really, to run for president again.
Now, let me ask you, because is it also because she's the vice president? She's also the incumbent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so she is an incumbent on the Biden-Harris ticket, right? Yeah. And so that economy is hung around her neck. And I think that she has owned it and said, we will work to cut costs. We will work to cut costs for gas. We will work to strengthen the border. But at the same time, having to do all of these other introductory things, building the campaign, being the vice president, it's a lot of jobs.
We can't forget, though, before she came on the ticket, I mean, you're talking about the 107 days or so, there was another candidate there.
Absolutely.
It wasn't Donald Trump running on his own, although maybe some Democrats thought that he was, and they weren't supporting Joe Biden. But the party, I mean, it can't be all hung around her neck, the blame for this. The party was there was a candidate, and maybe the campaign just wasn't any good, the message wasn't any good.
I think the message has changed, though. I do. I think the message has changed because Harris really wanted to make it clear this will not be a continuation of the Biden presidency. Here are the things she is going to do different. As a woman and as a woman of color, I think she brought a different perspective to the ticket that Joe Biden couldn't bring.
Well, as of a few weeks ago, she was asked this question, and she said she couldn't think of anything she would do differently.
Really?
On The View, when she was asked.
Yeah. I didn't see that.
But does that mean then that the Democrats should actually not have run Joe Biden for a second term, that within the party there should have been a conversation, a come-to-Jesus moment, if you like, and had a primary contest?
I do think that had we had the conversation the day after the midterms in 2022, we would be in a much different position than we are today. But I think it's not. It's a looking back on, 2 years ago.
Deanna, what kind of president, I think this is what everybody is wondering, will Donald Trump be this time compared with last time?
We know who he will be. He will tweet, and we will wring our hands, and around the globe, people will say that it is outrageous that the American president is behaving this way.
Okay, yeah.
But Americans are far more comfortable with mean tweets than they are with, the prices at the grocery store. Yeah.
Thank you both.
Or an open border.
Yeah, really interesting perspectives there. As we said, there's going to be this post-mortem that will be done as well, of course, from the Democrats, analyzing every number, what went wrong, what money was spent where, and we're going to see all of that come out, of course, in the coming days, John.
And we still have more numbers to come in, don't we? Not quite at that 270 figure yet, but very, very close and could get there in the next few hours.